The word quadrophenia is not in the dictionary, yet it invokes a strange feeling whenever you hear it. It originates from the title of an album created by the classic rock band The Who and was released in 1973. This album has a strange and spatial feeling to it and seems to focus on the empty spaces in life which are usually ignored. Quadrophenia is a concept album that tells the story of a troubled and confused English youth named Jimmy, exploring the whirlwind that is the mind of the juvenile delinquent. The sea is an omnipresent force in the story. On most occasions, the beach is somewhere sunny and warm where you can be carefree, but in Quadrophenia, the image of the beach is an overcast English shoreline with crashing gray waves and obscured by clouds. The sea is a faceless entity that cannot be affected nor manipulated. Its only use for humans is to reflect their lives back at them, so that they can observe themselves from an outside perspective. No matter how long you stare, its secrets and treasures are unpermitted to the eye, hidden far below the opaque waves. If you couldn't tell, my voice is kind of dead right now, so I'm doing my best here. But anyway, back to it. Quadrophenia is not just an album, there was also a film in 1979. It's mostly forgotten these days compared to their other movie, Tommy. And I will say the opinions or reviews are a little bit mixed. We'll just leave it at that. But watching this movie kind of helps us understand what the hell quadrophenia even means. The film version is much more straightforward in sending the message and telling the story compared to the album, which is kind of cryptic. It follows this character, Jimmy, who's in a bike gang and takes amphetamines and just kind of partakes in chaos and disorder. As the story progresses, he becomes growingly distant with the world around him, his family and friends, and so on. Whenever he's presented with conflict, he really only responds with one thing, and that's anger. And anger leads to rebellion and disorder. And this only really heightens his depression and mental instability. The film ends with Jimmy riding his motorcycle on a cliffside, looking out into the sea and debating his life. The ending is ambiguous in the sense that we see a motorcycle fly off the ledge of the cliff, but we don't see a body with it, which leaves it up to the viewer to decide whether or not he took his own life or not, or if he gave himself a second chance. According to Pete Townsend, guitarist and songwriter of The Who, quadrophenia is supposed to be the combination of these two words, quadrophonic and schizophrenia. Quadrophonic is a surround sound technology that utilizes 4 distinct sound channels, which creates an immersive listening experience. Schizophrenia, as well, we all know what that is. In my opinion, the suffix phrenia, which just means mentally unstable, is more accurate. I don't really see that much evidence that Jimmy is schizophrenic for the most part. I think he's just confused. With the combination of quadrophonic and the suffix phrenia and some minor alterations, we get quadrophenia, an elegant, psychedelic sounding word. But what does it even mean? The simple answer is that the word quadrophonic, its influence on the meaning of quadrophenia is just referring to the audio aspect, that 4-way sound system. But personally, I don't really think that's what they're getting at. Pete Townsend actually declined to release the album with quadrophonic sound because the technology wasn't good enough at the time. So with the album not even being in quadrophonic sound, I don't think that's just what it means. I think that the quadrophonic aspect of the word is actually referring to the sounds inside Jimmy's head, or his inner dialogue. Directly translating it, the prefix quadro and the suffix phrenia would mean a four-way mental disorder. This is applicable to Jimmy. If the inner dialogue of his mind were to be played through a four-way sound system, each speaker would be playing something different, which would just make a mesh of confusion. One speaker plays his desire for love, another plays his anger. One speaker plays his desire for belonging, and another plays his reasoning for rebellion. This makes the word quadrophenia function as a medical diagnosis, similar to schizophrenia, but not quite the same. Not uncommon in youths and adolescents, quadrophenia creates confusion, which leads to poor choices and often depression. I think that a lot of us have experienced quadrophenia at some point in our life, and it's usually when you're at a sort of crossroads in life. There's so many sounds and influences playing in your head all at once, all the time, and you just kind of sit there, unable to take a next step. Now that we've defined quadrophenia as a sort of mental diagnosis, I want to try to figure out what role the sea plays in the story. The album, along with the film, are blanketed by this presence of the sea. There are multiple scenes of Jimmy just looking out at the water and reflecting. And in the album, there's often ocean sounds between songs. Also, the opening song of the album is titled I Am the Sea. I want to focus on, it's a very short song, and I just want to focus on these first and last lyrics. Start with the first. The first ones say, I am the sea. It is me for a moment, for a moment. This lyric reminds me of the last scene of the movie, where he peers off the edge of the cliff and looks into the waves. The sea is faceless, and it doesn't give up any of her secrets. It only reflects back your truth. Jimmy, in those shimmering waves, all he sees is himself. For that moment, he is the sea. Here's the closing lines of this song. It says, can you see the real me? Can you? Can you? This describes another symptom of quadrophenia. With all the conflicting noises inside Jimmy's head, a sense of identity becomes nearly impossible to have. He might ask others if they can see the real him, but he can't even see himself. This is until he looks out at the sea. While staring into the boundless English waters, he realizes that he's just a pebble in comparison to something so great and powerful. The sea controls its own tides, and he is at mercy to them. In realizing this, the sea finally shows him the real me and presents him with a question. It asks, now that you see yourself, the real you, unobscured and unadulterated, you have a choice. You can either throw yourself off this cliffside or overcome the quadrophenia in your head. Make your actions match your desires and let your inner voices act in harmony.